What is a boucherie? Well, put in Louisiana terms, it's a party, and specifically a party around a pig. And we got a chance to experience this party at White Oak Estate and Gardens in Baton Rouge at the end of February 2024. David and I went and we got a chance to do some really cool stuff. So this is going to be a great episode. We're going to start out with a quick overview of the Boucherie, and then David and I are going to get into, our typical David and Jeremy discussion. So stick around. This is going to be a fun one. Real quick, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and just let us know that you like the content that we're presenting here. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, leave them in the comments below. All right, without further ado, let's get on with it.
Oh, I love you like a pig loves corn.
This being my first Boucherie, I really didn't, I know I said this before, but I really did not know what to expect. Even though we went there the day before, and of course I was doing all the video shooting and everything, and I didn't know what was going to happen the next day. I've been told, and I had no reason to not believe anything, but you know, for people who haven't experienced the Boucherie before, I think it's really important that we talk about, you know, number one, why you should go. And then number two, what you're going to see when you get there.
And you'll provide a great perspective because of the fact that the first year I went, I was just so in awe because I know but two people. And I really didn't know John as well as I've gotten to know him over the years.
Right.
And so even the two people I knew were people that I'd worked on with the radio show with him, but I'd kept up with them on Facebook.
Right.
Then over time, but so I was kind of in awe of just everybody I was around. Of course, I was blown away by the food.
Sure.
And there's a lot of other things. I'm still in awe of a lot of it when I see it, but it's a different perspective than you coming there first time.
Yeah, definitely a Boucherie veteran is, you kind of know what you're walking into, so to speak. And for somebody who's never been, it is very much a food festival, but the food is not only the central component, but there's a reverence to the whole process of harvesting the animal. You know, if you go back, look, like you had mentioned before in the past, in previous episodes, that there are other people that do Boucheries, there's other groups that do them, and John's is very well. I mean, he's got his students from Nicholls State coming there. Yep. It is a very well-oiled machine. The entire staff that puts together this event, there's so many moving components. There's so many things that go into making this come off without a hitch. It's almost like you don't even see all the inner workings, right?
Right.
But if you take a step back and you look at all of the components that go into putting on a Boucherie, even though it's done by 3-4 o'clock, it starts much earlier. White oak, it's a marvel in and of itself, and it looks like an old-fashioned plantation house, but it's relatively new in the grand scheme of things. And it's like it's not on cane sugar property or anything like that. It's actually situated next to a convent, which that in and of itself was funny as hell when we. Sorry, it's like, but
I think that came after the fact.
Yeah, well, but it was so funny watching the nuns
out there
playing
ball.
Playing basketball and actually checking other nuns. That was kind of it's like, whoa, okay, Sister Mary's getting down on the court here, it's pretty rad. But even the grounds, like that whole walking trail that he's got along the back end that ends up at the lake. I believe the nuns walk around that property.
Yeah, so I mean the two properties are adjoining, and John has it such that back walk is very contemplative.
Okay.
There's this, in addition to the statue of Jesus with his arms raised over looking at the nuns, there are statues on the back end, and what still got me is the motion activated playing of the Ave Maria when you're walking down there.
Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, anyway, the grounds, the White Oak Estates grounds are phenomenal in and of themselves. So if you are looking for a venue to have an event on and you're in the Baton Rouge area, or you don't mind going up to the Baton Rouge area, it is a sight to be seen. It's got a massive back area with plenty of places to hold different types of events. Yeah. And I know John's and that group has hosted all kinds of events there.
And I mean, we were there the 2 days. It couldn't have been better planned. The Friday we got there and you did all the filming without the crowds.
With something that's not open to the general public. This is only for the individuals participating in the Boucherie.
Right.
And that's the breakfast.
That is probably one of the highlights for a lot of the butchers who get to participate, because the assortment of classic pork infused dishes and southern Louisiana recipes are it's wonderful. And at the same time, we're also trying to make sure that we're being fortified, because when we're standing at those stands, as you'll see, we're standing for a while and we're working, and we're not sitting there. Sometimes you can go grab a little bite of somebody's samples next door, but for the most part, you're standing there and you're burning all that off.
Of course, there is the the prayer that happens before anything else at that point. The prayer is very respectful. I wanted to capture, and I did, and I captured it from a viewpoint that not many people see, and that was from behind the bishop. And it was amazing to see all the people taking part in the event, all facing the bishop, and as he recited the prayer, it was a moment of reflection, and it was a moment of where everybody who was about to get into it was remembering why they were there. To be able to participate this in a more modern setting where, let's face it, some of the stuff you're shielded from, that you don't have to do.
And to your point, these are things that are important to John as well as his staff. It's an overall grace, I guess, if you will, saying grace before the process and the meal. Right.
And we've talked about this on a number of occasions, but when you go to the grocery store, you're getting your processed / harvested food. This event exposes you to something that you may have never seen before, and that is the actual slaughtering of the animal and then essentially butchering it down to nothing. If you're kind of freaked out about seeing something like that, you're not gonna. You're gonna see what is a big honking hog on the table being harvested, but that's the extent of it.
When I was a kid growing up in Texas, you had the butchers that were still wore the white jackets and the hats, and they came out, and there was aprons, and they were blood stained, and you could see half a cow hanging in the background, and them, you can even hear the saws going and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And now you don't really see that as much,
all
especially
sanitized.
If you go to a big box store.
Yep.
Everything's cellophane. Even, like I said, just even in our 50-something years life, that has become less and less. This next generation really probably doesn't even see or appreciate it. So this is an opportunity to take it even, like I say, a step further back than what we were seeing when we were growing.
It really was an eye-opening and unique experience that I've never seen in my life. It helps me develop a deeper appreciation for what it is that ultimately I end up getting at the store. It is a celebration. The food's not ready until 11 or noon, right?
Right, right. So, I think there was like 8 or 9 stations.
Right.
And the public comes in, and in addition to just watching the work that we're doing with the making the different dishes, as you'll show, I'm sure, in your videos, that White Oak has a lot of little different outbuildings and out processes that reflect the old style of living. The grist mills, the distillery, the sugarcane grinding, the various places, the smokehouse. So those things are part of the tour that when you come in, and you can walk around the lake like you were talking about. You can go. It's a beautiful place, and on a day like we experienced this year in February, that was the perfect day to spend. You can come at 8 o'clock. It's leisurely. They're having discussions on all these things. Plus, in the ballroom, he's got 2 historians who will come in and give histories of either. I think they did the Whiskey Rebellion this year, but in the past they've talked about like how hogs have just came to the United States. Pigs got into the United States, and the benefits or the need to do some of the stuff with the wild hogs and the destruction that they can do just being wild, and they're just doing what hogs do. I understand that, but anyway, that is part of the thing. You'll get the education. Sometimes there'll be other kind of cooking demonstrations. John even did one with the old Lewis and Clark recipe where they were cooking beaver tail, demonstrating some of that. We've had musicians playing kind of troubadour type of songs. Coming around playing kind of old Southern songs, not Cajun fiddle and all that type of thing, but just kind of some of the background. And then the people are coming around to the tables and they're asking questions and sharing memories, which has always been great, because they'll talk about how they remember their grandmother or great grandmother making these things, and well, don't you do it this way? And I try to make sure I've read up enough that I can share my understanding, or if I've heard similar stories.
What I found interesting is that the younger generations were taking part in this too. And some of them like the gentleman who harvested the hog.
Felix.
Is it Felix?
Yeah.
His son was with him, right?
Yeah, his son.
And his son.
I think his father, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his son, I think, is the one who pulled the trigger. And he was, we were talking to them, and he was so proud of being part of this. It was something that he really wanted to do. And then at your station, there was a little kid right at the end who was holding up the tray of boudin.
Yeah.
And he was
blood boudin too.
Yeah, and it was blood boudin, and he looked super happy, like he was participating in this making process. And that was really cool, because it shows that there is longevity to this. This is not something that's going to end with our generation or successive generations. This tradition will continue, and that's good.
That's an excellent point.
But to see the crowd get into it, and be able, when it made sense, be able to taste certain things that was really cool. It becomes very educational, that to the point where if you've never experienced one of these, you can walk away with so much information. It literally takes a while to peruse all of the information that you have and then decide what you want to do with it. Of course, you run, I think, one of the more popular stations with boudin, right?
Yeah, but right. So at the end of the day, that would be the thing, is that I would have spoils of the boucherie, as John calls it. I'd have some to take home with me.
Right.
And, once again, the tradition goes back to the fact that there wasn't refrigeration. So, I want some of the meat, but I don't want enough that I've got to do something with it before it spoils.
Right.
I have enough to get me through a week or two.
Right.
And then next time my hog's ready, you come over and we do the same thing.
Right.
And so when you have those traditional boucheries, you won't see really anything else being done other than maybe dishes that might be cooked like a breakfast, or some of the meals in between, the maybe the potato stews, or even the backbone stew that you didn't see this year.
Right.
You'll see that because it'll give the butcher something to eat while everybody's making the different dishes to store. But then so in this case, you get to see an alligator being harvested, which he was already deceased by the time we got there.
Right.
And the big pot of jambalaya. So it gives you some cross-cultural South Louisiana items to look at as well.
Yeah. And when all is said and done, I think this is ultimately what most attendees go for, is the massive line of food that you obviously you load up your plate, and there's just tons of food. I mean, you said it before. I said it in the last episode. You leave hungry, it's your own fault. There's a lot of food there, and everybody seemed like they had a really good time. And I know that John's been trying to control. So this is the thing, guys. This has become a really popular event, and they have to cap it, because there's so many people that want to come, but they're, John wants it to grow, but then his staff is like, oh, come, we're already kind of stretched a little thin here, and who knows where it's going to evolve into. But it is a fairly, when you have everybody there at any given time, it's pretty full. There's quite a few people there, and I don't remember, it was like 250 this year or something like that.
I think something along those lines. I can't remember what they capped the tickets off. At one point, I thought it was like 150. If you say there's 150 tickets to be sold, you also have to realize all the people that you just described are there too. All the butchers who are helping. Right. So there's at least 40 there. Then you've got Nickel State students, which is another 2 per station at least. A lot of the other staff members that John has helping out. So that's probably almost an additional 100 people, 80 to 100 people there. Then sometimes you have media come, then the bishop, and you're looking at the grounds themselves are big enough to handle everybody, but from a standpoint of people not stepping all over each other and having enough food and figuring out how much food to have, because that's another talent that they've got is, you throw in an event, I need to know, if you're having a party at your house, you kind of want to know how many people are coming. In this case, they do it by the tickets, I think were $85 this year. That offsets the cost of getting the food, and it's well worth,
Oh God, yes. It's
kind of undervalued if you ask me. But
well, when you think about it, it's kind of like a cooking class and the ability to consume without doing a lot of the work. As an attendee, you can go around and ask questions of all the people at the stations, which is really cool. But at the end of the day, you're not doing anything except waiting for the food to come out. And so you have the opportunity to learn a lot. Of course, like you said, they have the breakout session in the hall there. And this year they had tastings of the bourbon.
Oh, yeah. And the rum. Yeah,
and the rum and that they make on site there. That was really cool. And John was going around signing bottles for people who asked. In addition to that, the grounds and being able to see like the distillery and to see the smokehouse, which used to be an old outhouse, that kind of stuff it's pretty cool. It really does take you back. And, if the trailer that I put up on the Rainy Cajun channel doesn't show you enough, this episode with all the material that I have, should give you a sense of the kinds of things that you can experience when you come here. So I think overall it is well worth it. And like you said, at $85, it is, I think it's priced just right. I think that's a good balance between, weeding out people who are just not, they're partially interested, but not really interested. And then pushing out some folks who might be slightly outside their budget. So I think it's a good point. Undervalued, yes, but a good price, absolutely.
Yeah. And another aspect too, and it's always happened like this from a participant standpoint, being the butchers. There's the networking aspect.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's folks in different fields, culinary fields. Some you got chefs from all over the country, some working in restaurants, some working in institutions, and some who are on food supply standpoint. If you're not as a participant, you still get that opportunity, because I know my cousin on my mom's side, Chef Paul Robert, he comes there for the last several years, and he sees people he knows and he's worked with in the past. If you're thinking about it from that standpoint too, as visiting, you may not, even if you don't know anybody, but you want to kind of get to know some people in the business, it's an opportunity to kind of reach out and talk to people and meet them.
Right.
So, that's another value added aspect of that a ticket gets you there.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. John's a very approachable guy. He is somebody that, like, if you were to bring one of his books to the Boucherie, he would absolutely autograph it for you.
Oh, yeah.
He's a humble guy. He loves doing things. He loves, exposing people to the things that he enjoys. And I think that's great. And that's what makes him a really great chef. If you are going to visit New Orleans and you want a sampling of what Chef Folse can do and the kinds of the level of quality that he has put behind his products, Restaurant Revolution in the Quarter is by far one of the premium spots. I mean, it's on the level of an Antoine's or a Galatoire's or Brennan's. It's a nice, very nice restaurant.
His Culinary Institute in Nickel State in Thibodeau would also be an interesting place.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, there's a lot of things that he has contributed to and has his hands in, like you said, from that whole entrepreneurial spirit. He's got a lot of interest in various things.
Hopefully we make our way back next year. And if you want more, Bayou Wild did a quick little segment on the Boucherie. Actually, they've done a couple of them, now I think about it. And so if you're looking for something that's kind of quick and more concise and a little bit less documentary style like I do.
Yeah.
Than the Bayou Wild episodes with Don, and who else is in there?
Martha.
Martha's in there. Yeah.
Don and Martha primarily have been the ones, and various Miss Louisianas have come.
Yep, that's right.
And Chris Lecoq, usually he's behind the camera, so you don't get to see him as much, but they've done a great job documenting the event on a couple of occasions.
Right. But at the end of the day, it was 100% worth it. I would absolutely recommend it, and you'll have a good time. It is definitely a family event. I think if you have little ones, it might not be as fun just because they don't necessarily understand what's going on, and if you're chasing them around the grounds, that might be not so fun for you. But
that's a good point.
But if you have, let's say 10-year-old up, catch them before they become too cool for school as teenagers and take them to an event like this, and I think they'll develop an appreciation for it. So it's definitely it's an event to participate in for sure. There's plenty of video information on there for those of you who watched the last one on food, and if you haven't watched it, you really should, because I think we talked about some cool places that were they're not unknown, but they're not, for people who come to visit New Orleans and never really make it out of New Orleans, you're missing out on a lot of really great places. And we got a chance to explore some of those places, and then we highlighted them. So definitely watch that episode, and you can jump around. I've got chapter markers at different places that you can check out. But I think we'll go ahead and wrap it. Again, thank you so much for watching, David. It was good talking with you again.
You too, man.
We will see everybody on the next one. And be sure, watch through to the end. We do have our merchandise shop with our Couillon line of clothing that is pretty killer and completely disrespectful to a ton of people, and we love it. So get yourself.
I did say I am the model on the page.
You are the model. You are proudly sporting the Couillon look. So that's taking one for. So
I got you.
All right, guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and we will talk to you later.
All right.